So now for the second part of this video, we want to get into more practical tips just to help you along if you start planning, to know what you should be aware of, because we were there for like a good 3 weeks. So yeah, maybe we have some practical pointers for you. So the first point being like temple etiquette. So regarding what to wear, how to act, very important is that you dress modestly out of respect for the temple site and religious site, which you usually always do when you travel anywhere. So make sure you cover your shoulders and your knees. We always bring a sarong, or we already dress the part up front when we know we're gonna go somewhere.
But you can also get one there. You don't really have to bring one. If you can't, you can buy them there. Sometimes you have them in front of the temples that they lend them, for example, stuff like that, where you also have the points where you have to drop your shoes, for example. And there we sometimes like to actually take some socks, which we exclusively used for the temple sites, because some of them were quite hot. Let's say in Immerse, the rocks, for example, were super hot, bare feet. Like, we're not used to walking around bare feet. So white socks are perfect for that, for example, or in Unawatuna as well. And we have to say that we did encounter quite some tourists, especially in the south, in the beach areas, who went to temples and they were like all dressed in bikinis, for example. And we thought it's really not appropriate, because you should adjust to those religious sites and to those values, and at least cover the parts that should be covered. So like your shoulders and knees, for example.
Yeah, should keep that in mind. So yeah, we always have a sarong with us, very easy. And also, I didn't know this either myself, but when you take like pictures of a Buddha statue or like even a certain pagoda, you should never stand with your back towards it. So actually you shouldn't take selfies with a Buddha. It's not very respectful.
Right.
So keep that in mind as well.
We saw that, for example, in Tala, we saw that the police was also paying attention to that, to people who were standing towards it, like taking a selfie, for example, like this. And they were actually coming up to those people and saying, hey, you should delete that one, you shouldn't do that. So in those parts I would definitely be respectful and keep those things in mind.
So next is, when is the best time to visit Sri Lanka? Now actually you can visit this country the whole time of the year, but they do have monsoon seasons. Now if you want to do like the tour that we did for mostly the western, central and south part, it's best actually between December and April.
That's like to say the main season of the country, of those parts, and you're gonna have the best weather. You're not gonna have much rain. We didn't have almost any rain whatsoever. Just on the hill country, since it's the hill country, you have mountains, can happen anytime. We had there like also a heavy downpour once in Ella. But generally speaking, those parts are perfect.
Now, just a few things that you shouldn't forget to bring. One of them is being mosquito repellent. We did bring it, we use it extensively. We just forgot it the very first night. We got bitten, and damn, they're really harsh. It took us the whole trip to make them heal, to make them go away. It was quite something.
It was a pity because it was the first day. But after that we actually used it thoroughly and we didn't have problems with it. Also within the guest houses, almost everywhere we had a mosquito net above our bed, which was perfect and really secures you for those kind of things.
And like footwear wise, bring some flip-flops or Birkenstocks, which we like. But yeah, you'll like it when you go temple hopping, because you will have to take off your shoes every time you enter the temple. So that's very easy. And then just some good sneakers, some good footwear. We personally don't think that you have to bring really like hiking shoes. That's not necessary, but a good sneaker.
There it really wasn't necessary. We did, for example, Ella Rock and Little Adams Peak. There was totally fine with sneakers. Some comfy shoes I think are most important, that you're comfortable in them, but really hiking, really not necessary.
No, true. And like I said, bring a sarong, or you can buy it there for covering up for temples.
So about visa requirements, obviously you should check for your own country's visa requirements. They oftentimes change and each country is different. But you would most likely have to apply for an e-visa, so we can put a link below where you can just check which kind of requirements your country has for Sri Lanka specifically. So regarding SIM cards, we do suggest that you do buy a SIM card as soon as you arrive. We, for example, did that in the airport because it's rather uncomplicated. And you do have there the big providers. We took Mobitel, for example, and went really well through all the country with that. We had good connection throughout everywhere, and it's also nice to use, for example, already for the Pick Me app. If you come from the airport, you can right away get to your guest house.
And otherwise, these days, there are a lot of phones which can have like an eSIM, which we have been doing on our latest travels, and we've been very happy with that. We've been using Airalo. I'll put the link also down below. So that's also an option to have internet access right away upon arrival.
Of course, only if your phone provides that function. It's like mostly the newer phones, but slowly but surely every phone is gonna get some kind of eSIM functionality, I think. So when it comes to money, obviously in Sri Lanka, cash is king. So you should look for an ATM where you can exchange some money. We, for example, always went to the Bank of Ceylon because there you don't have any fees if you want to take off money. Other than, of course, your own service provider, your own credit card provider. Those fees are, of course, dependable on your contract that you have. But from the ATM itself, there were no costs attached to it. So Bank of Ceylon was our go-to ATM. And other than that, the other ATMs have around $1 fee attached to it per taking of money. So it was all very, very cheap if you compare it to other Asian countries, especially Southeast Asian countries wherever you've been to. And in our travel, we actually didn't pay almost anything by credit card. I can't remember any homestay because it is guest houses, so it's private people who do that. So there you will not be able to pay via credit card, so be sure to always have cash with you. Also, over the app, I think was the only way to then pay via credit card, for example, or the big hotels which we didn't go to. So yeah, we did mostly by cash.
So in that regards, if you want to travel on a budget like we do, it's very easy to do that in Sri Lanka. It's very budget friendly. Definitely if you keep it to staying at guest houses, use local transport, so don't do like private transfers the whole time. And you can eat so good for less money. Little money and very healthy as well. So yeah, you can definitely get around on a budget. Your biggest expense will probably be all the UNESCO World Heritage Site, which the entrance fees are very high.
Yes, those were expensive. If you compare it to other countries, they were really on the higher side. We sometimes paid $30 in Sri Lankan rupees for an entrance for one person, which is a lot of a daily budget, of course. But you only do a few of those. For example, Sigiriya, when you go to Unawatuna. So those places, everything else, you oftentimes don't have to pay an entrance fee.
And then it compensates, obviously.
So when we're looking at our budget and how much we paid actually for our trip, we come around to 1,000 euros for the whole trip per person, which is really cheap. It's really like a nice budget option. And we had an average of 40 euros per day. And that means we also included, of course, the UNESCO World Heritage Site tickets. We have, for example, the safari in there, which we had like a nicer stay, for example. And of course the guest houses, which are on the cheaper side then of staying, and not the hotels that you would maybe go to.
Indeed. So we also didn't look at anything actually. So indeed we did budget like on guest houses and transport, but we ate everything we wanted. We had fruit juices every day. And like we said, it included something like a safari and the UNESCO World Heritage Site, which you can skip, which we wouldn't recommend. But if you need to stay on a budget, then you could even go for 20 to 25 a day. Yeah.
And of course, you could make it more expensive if you use more private transport, for example. If you want to save some time and get to places fast, you're going to pay more if you don't take a train, for example, or a bus. Or you can save even more if you go to hostels or like even cheaper kind of accommodations. When it comes to the budget, you should also pay attention to bargaining. It is very important in a country that you haggle a little bit at least, that you get the prices down. We did it, for example, with tuk-tuks. We could always haggle. We were like doing a little bit of back and forth. And I would never accept the price they give you right away. It's a tourist price that they're putting on there. And it's okay, culturally speaking, it's okay to really bargain a bit and do this little back and forth until you come to an agreement. So this way you save a little bit of money and you're also not gonna pay horrendous overpriced tourist prices.
True. And you can easily do this all in English because practically everyone we encountered speaks a really good amount of English. I think it's the second almost spoken language, so you don't have to worry about that. It's easy to get around. And on that regards, indeed, on how to get around in the country, so it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Like there are buses, they go everywhere to every little corner of the island. So the local bus will get you everywhere.
It's a preferred one for locals, but it's also, I have to say, really nice as a tourist to use the bus, since there's different types, and they do have, for example, an air-conditioned bus, which is a little bit more expensive, but we think it's totally worth it, especially in the hot days. And not a lot of locals take that one, so it's kind of like meant for tourists. So we prefer that one whenever it was available. And other than that, indeed, you can get to every point in the island with the bus, even if trains or maybe other forms of transportation don't get there.
Yeah, so the second mode of transportation is the train, which you will mostly find in the Central Highlands, and the most popular one is the scenic train ride from Kandy to Ella, which you will probably have heard about or read about. And our big tip here is to definitely book that one up front if you want to take this famous train ride, because they do book out rather fast because everybody wants to take it. So if you want to get a seat in the seated wagons, book it via 12 Go, put the link down below. Indeed. And indeed, our advice is we really like the second class, because then you can open the windows, enjoy the scenery.
That's a major tip here. Yeah. The second class is the one you actually want, because there you open up the wagons and you can then do your scenic video or picture. You can hang out of the tree as many did. So that is actually where all these pictures, let's say, come from, is the second class. First class is maybe air conditioned and all that, but you can't open anything there. Also, the windows are rather small to open and stuff like that. You can't open the wagons up all completely. So that's a major tip here if you want to do that specifically. And secondly is that you should definitely reserve, because we had also the problem not only with that train ride, but the one where we wanted to get back to Colombo, and we wanted to book a train from Hull, it was the train station there. We couldn't find anything anymore. It was really difficult to get a train ticket, and thank God Rike found a bus which went that route again. As you can see, buses always go.
They always get you everywhere.
I have to say it was super comfortable. We were super happy with that one.
And if you have more budget or it's not an issue, you can always, of course, hire a private driver. They are everywhere. Or also hire a tuk-tuk for the day, which we often also did for little day trips. It's the easiest way to get, for example, to Polonnaruwa for the day trip. So that's also easily done and doesn't break the bank.
That one is the most flexible, I would say. And each guest house, everyone we went to, they have somebody they can call quickly, and that person is then available for the whole day to drive you around, for example, somewhere. And that's, I think, the most preferred maybe form of accommodation, form of transport if you need to go somewhere quickly, somewhere fast, or not too far away. And indeed, you still have those taxis, let's call them, you have a driver maybe, or some shared vans also exist there, where you just pay as a group together, for example, to get somewhere. So these are also all possible.
And definitely the last big tip is install a Pick Me app, because you will be able to use that if you come from the airport. So to quickly grab something to get you to your hotel. So it mainly functions in cities like Colombo, Negombo. I do think you can also maybe find it in Kandy, but it's only in cities.
For us it was very important, that one, because that's how we went to Wilpatu National Park, because it was a bit tricky to get there. So we got a driver for that through the Pick Me app. And when we were there, there was still the possibility to use Uber, but remember, it's way more expensive to use Uber, and locals usually use the Pick Me app if they use one at all. So I would rather go with that than to save some bucks and have more possibilities to get somewhere.
So that was it for all our tips and recommendations. We hope that they were useful and that you're excited to start planning your own trip to Sri Lanka.
And we definitely want to come back to the country. We enjoyed it so much. I personally was very surprised by the country, by the people, by all the things we saw, how beautiful it is, the rich history and culture. Everything we experienced there was really a memory for a lifetime, I have to say. And we really want to come back, especially seeing maybe the eastern part, which we couldn't go to, Trincomalee, for example, and also the northern parts, so the more Muslim parts, which are closer to India. So these two places we haven't really seen much of. And also maybe do one or two more safaris to finally see some leopards.
Definitely.
So we do want to return. That's really on our list as well.
Indeed. We're already excited to start planning ourselves. No, so if you have any more questions, you can always drop them down below or contact us. We're very happy to help, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.